Greetings! So, no news for today, but I thought I would talk about granulation a bit. Granulation has been on my mind a lot lately because of all the new granulating colors that Schmincke has released that I really love. And it was a bit hazy for me, so I decided to look into it. Granulation is a property of certain pigments to create texture on the paper. This texture happens when you have enough water mixed in your paint, and that leaves some room for the pigment particle to move a bit and settle in very different ways. It usually happens with paints that have heavier particles or larger particles of pigment in the mix. It doesn't have to be a natural paint, it can be either synthetic pigments or natural pigments. If you take, for example, ultramarine blue, it's an entirely synthetic pigment and it also granulates. You can also take a pigment like ultramarine blue again and mill it until it's really fine and barely granulating anymore. If you happen to find a genuine mineral pigment, for example again with Schmincke when they released the triad of red opalite, lapis lazuli, and green porphyry, those were genuine mineral pigments and they were coarser, so they had more texture to it and heavier granulation. You can control granulation a tiny bit by adding more or less water. Also, the quality of the water you add in will have an effect, so if you use hard water that has minerals in it already, the granulation will be more intense. And if you use distilled water, it's not going to amplify the granulation. Also, it depends on the paper you use. If you use a paper like a cold press paper that has a regular texture on the surface, it's going to make for a more regular granulating effect, because the pigments are going to follow the pattern of the paper. If you use rough paper, chances are that it's going to be the same thing again, except with a more dramatic effect, because the paper texture is even more accentuated than with cold press paper. Now, if you use hot press paper, you can get a lot of granulation as well, but it's going to be random, as there is no texture in the paper to help guide the pigments as they settle down. Overall, granulation is really fascinating and a lot of fun to use. You can get some beautiful effect with granulation, and it can be a bit intimidating, but I really encourage everyone to give it a try. That's it for today's really quick and short segment about some watercolor related facts. Let me know what you think of this kind of video in the comments below, pretty please. And have a lovely day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.